Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Irvin sent me a story from the Kansas City Star, but the story's from Michigan. And he said, Steve, you might be interested in the story because it happened in Michigan. Oh, yes, I'm interested. And I'm always fascinated at people who pose as other professions because how often they get caught, it's scary, and quite often they are breaking the law by what they're doing. So in this case, it was a fake nurse put patients at risk until employers saw past convictions, according to the feds. So Caitlin Alanis wrote this for the Kansas City Star and says, after she was convicted of practicing as a nurse without a license in Texas, a woman went to Michigan and again worked as an imposter, according to federal authorities. Now the woman's been charged with identity theft, according to court records filed in the Western District of Michigan. The allegations in this case involving a woman faking as a professionally licensed nurse are dangerous and put unsuspecting patients in harm's way, says U.S. Attorney Mark Totten in a news release issued apparently yesterday. A defense attorney for the woman was not listed in federal court records, so they could not get a statement from anybody on that side. Authorities said the woman's 48 years old, but she used someone else's name and someone else's Michigan licensing number to apply for a job at a Michigan hospice facility. So I can only compare this to being a lawyer. And if you're a lawyer in Michigan, they give you a number, your bar number. And in Michigan, for some odd reason, they begin with the letter P. So you get a P number. So you can look at someone's number and tell roughly how long they've been practicing law. But you can also look them up with the bar. So you can look somebody up with the State Bar of Michigan and see their name and see if they're licensed and so on. But of course, the problem is that someone's got to do that work. And there are some industries where there's shortages of people who are qualified and also shortages of people who are overseeing them. And so they did catch this person, but it took them a little bit. So it turns out the 48-year-old woman using someone else's name and someone else's licensing number did not have a valid nursing license of her own, according to the release. She also did not have any degree in nursing, despite telling the employer that she had a master's degree in nursing from George Washington University. Now, she got the job, according to court records, and during her orientation, she gave a driver's license with her real name. So there should have been some kind of, conflict between the real name and the fake name. But on May 23rd, she was fingerprinted as part of a Michigan workforce background check. And just so you know, I've been fingerprinted. And I was fingerprinted because when you become an attorney in the state of Michigan, they do a background check on you, including they fingerprint you. And so you get to go into the local police department. And I was fingerprinted so long ago that they're still doing the thing with all the ink on your fingertips. I think that they have a high-tech way of doing that now, but it's been over 30 years since I got fingerprinted. And all I remember is walking out of there with my hands covered with black ink, and they're tossing me a paper towel, saying, here, take care of that. So here, it was a hospice facility the woman was working in, and they learned that she was a nurse imposter. So you've got nurse practitioners, you've got nurse imposters. Not the same thing. They learned that when her fingerprints matched the fingerprints on record due to her previous state and federal convictions. So she has both state and federal convictions. You might say, Steve, what was she convicted of? Well, she was convicted of practicing nursing without a license in Texas in 2015 and 2016. She was immediately fired, but she had received more than $1,000 in pay, authorities said in court records. So she did get paid some for her time as a nurse. But about a week later, authorities say they found the woman working as a registered nurse at a Michigan skilled nursing home facility. So for some odd reason, she just can't stop. In her interview with officers, the woman said she was working as a unit manager, according to court records. In that role, she said her job responsibilities, including making sure that the certified nurse assistants completed all of their nursing tasks appropriately. And it makes you wonder how somebody who is a nurse imposter could figure these things out. If convicted of the identity theft charge, she'll face up to 15 years in federal prison, according to the release. So you'll notice that that's the interesting thing here. She got busted for posing as a nurse, actually working as a nurse. So I assume there's a law against that. But they got her for identity theft because they say that she applied for the job using someone else's name and someone else's license number. But then oddly, somewhere along the line, she actually gave them her actual driver's license, which showed her real name, which again did not comport with her fake name. So that is a very serious thing. But it's amazing. And my understanding is that right now, it's hard to find people who are qualified to fill these roles. And if you've ever spent time in a hospital, a nursing home facility, hospice, anything like that, you know that these people are among the most overworked and underappreciated people in America. And so I know that many people who watch my show know that I have a soft spot in my heart for truck drivers. And I'm often talking about truck drivers and how our country, our society would grind to a halt without truck drivers. Well, the other thing is that without nurses, without good nurses, the medical care industry would just be a nightmare. And so that's always fascinated me. And I'll admit I don't spend a lot of time in the hospital. I consider it a good thing because I don't work there. I don't want to be there if I don't have to. But the few times I've been in the hospital, the last few years, I've visited friends in the hospital, and I've mentioned previously that my mother passed away a couple years ago, and spent a bit of time dealing with the hospital and also with hospice. So I know a little bit about this, and dealt with doctors and dealt with nurses, and it was always the nurses who spent more time. And I understand that the doctors are also stretched thin and doing what they can with the time they've got. I understand that. I'm not faulting the doctors. I'm simply pointing out that it was the nurses who, in all of those situations, went out of their way. And I'm talking about different hospitals. This is not all the same hospital. Different hospitals. I can think of 3 different facilities where I dealt with nurses in the last couple of years. And remarking to people I was with about how amazing the nursing staff was. So I was impressed by that, but apparently it's hard to find good help. So the good help they can find, I hope they take care of them, but once in a while a fake nurse shows up. How long do you think you can get away with that as an imposter? How long? Because, I mean, you would think, call me crazy, you would think that at the moment in your life when you've already been convicted twice, state level, federal level, of impersonating a nurse, you go to another state, you apply for a job, you get a job, and at some moment in time they say, oh, we need to fingerprint you. You'd think at the moment that they're putting the ink, figuratively speaking, on your thumb, you'd realize, oops, I'm going to get caught again. Wouldn't you? Seriously. That seems to me to be the point at which this whole thing would fall apart, and she should have seen that coming. And so the weird part is that she got fired from the one job, and then when they tracked her down, she's already working at another job where apparently she should have been a qualified nurse to have that job also, but wasn't. So Irvin sent me the note and said, Steve, this bothers me because I'm a nurse. And that is part of the problem also, is this makes it bad for all the other nurses out there. So hopefully this woman didn't cause a lot of harm for the short period of time she was employed there, but it's a scary concept. And so you wonder if she gets convicted and she spends time in jail, if she gets out, what will she do for a living? Will she move to another state and try it again? I don't know. But from the Kansas City Star, Caitlin Alanis wrote that Irvin sent it, Irvin with an I. Fake nurse put hospice patients at risk until employers saw past the conviction, according to the feds. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Just because I don't care doesn't mean I don't understand.